Welcome back. We're on page 206, and now we're getting ready to talk about the different types of charts. We're going to demo this kind of quickly because the mechanics of actually doing the chart isn't all that tough. So instead we're going to be talking about the philosophy, primarily about what type of chart you ought to be using given a scenario. And you guys know how I think by now. Again, the mechanics is secondary. Yes, you do need to know how to do this. But on the other hand, it's probably more important to figure out why you're doing it rather than just blindly doing something. Okay, so I'm going to do things slightly different than what they had in the book because, again, the differences between the 2010 and 2013 are kind of driving me nuts. But so I'm going to click on my chart here and I'm going to go to Change Chart Type. So you click on this, and so column is what we started with. Let's just go through in the order in which to do in the book. We'll talk about the pie chart. And so a pie chart, let's just do this. So a pie chart. Now, what's the point of a pie chart? Well, it shows the same data as we had before, right? Same data. I didn't change the data. What it's basically saying is this shows me designed to show like which one of these is the largest, or the relationship between whatever this is, hot stone, and this one. You know, it's designed to show a relationship among the data, primarily like who has the largest part, or primarily, you know, it's all just relationship. I'm not really interested in numbers. In fact, I don't even put numbers out there. Now think about that. Here's a chart that doesn't have any numbers at all, but it still conveys what I want, because I'm not trying to find out how many. What I want to know is, looks like these four right here have about the equal number of items. That's all I wanted to know, was the comparison among themselves, not absolute numbers. Cool? All right, let's look at a line chart. Well, this is actually going to be a stupid one for line. We're going to have to switch over to something a little different because this is not going to make too much sense. You know, typically a line chart, line charts work really, really well when you're showing change over time, and I'm using time as just an example. We're talking about changes over like the x-axis, which is primarily time. So I'm gonna go down to here. I'm gonna create us a new chart since we have a cool thing here. This is, you know, week 1, 2, 3, 4, blah 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 blah. So I'm gonna grab this entire doodad here, okay, and go insert me a new kind of chart. So this time I'm gonna go here and say, yes, I want a chart. I'm gonna go ahead and go to this line chart. I'm gonna just go ahead and pick this guy. And you go, whoa, okay. Now, this didn't actually do exactly what I wanted. Now, I'll show you a cool trick. What I really wanted was the weeks to kind of be on the x-axis, okay? Not the data items, okay? I wanted to, basically I want to change the axes around. You think maybe there's a way you can do that? Like up here and hit switch data? Okay, isn't that pretty cool? So now I've got my items the way I want. And so this is supposed to show me changes over time. So, you know, in week 1 we did this, and week 2 we did that. Of course, that's kind of a jumbled mess, but hey, it's a good enough examples. What I'm trying to show you is typically time is the x-axis and the values, whatever they are going to be on the y-axis. It's trying to show you not necessarily which one is bigger, but trends, trying to show you that this is increasing or that is decreasing. Cool? All right. That's what line charts are. Now, columns are designed for comparing things, but not necessarily like a pie chart, but just be able to. So I'm going to change this to a column chart. Go here and go to columns, and we do this thing one more time. And so columns basically are designed to compare groups. For example, in this case, I want to compare group, you know, week 3 group of data to week 6 group of data. So basically I can say that week 2 was slightly better than week 6 because it looked like most of the bars. But on the other hand, you know, whatever this purple thing is, the hot stone, it was a heck of a lot more. So it's really for designed to do comparisons, and almost always comparison not just among a single item, because if that's all you wanted to be, a lot of easier ways of doing it. But the way you do this is you do compare with groups of data. Now, a bar chart is essentially the exact same thing, except instead of the things pointing up like a comb going this way, it's a comb going that way. Okay, so it's just preference here, guys. Nothing fancy. So if I go here and I go to bar chart, and I'm going to pick the same thing, it's the same data. It just shows it, you know, going this way versus that way. That's all it is. Not much compared. So it's again. We're talking about comparing categories. The series, in this case, the series data is, you know, like how many aromatherapies and things of that nature. Now, they show an example of a Gantt chart, and this one is a little complex, starting on page 209. So I'm going to go to this tab, and I'm going to build me a chart based upon this. So I'm going to grab all of this, and I'm going to start with one of those bar charts. So I'm going to do an insert. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to say a bar. And I'm going to use a stacked bar. Okay, so this is my stacked bar. And you think, well, how in the world is that going to be a Gantt chart? But one of the things I always think is kind of weird when you're looking at this is, for reasons that are not immediately clear, the order in which these things showed up here, which is like the project planning, and gathering and design, installation, and decorating, they're backwards for some reason. Okay, so one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on this legend, so to speak, and go in here and say I want to format this guy. And one of the choices is, when you're formatting the axis, one of the choices is show the categories in reverse order. I'm not even sure why you have to do that to make it work, but hey. So now it shows up in the exact same order as it does here. Okay, cool. That's one of the things you have to do. The next thing you have to do is go in here and the start date. I really don't want the start date to actually show up at all. Now, so I want to make it invisible, but not the red and not the green, just the blue. I want only the blue to be invisible. Okay, this is how Gantt charts work. So when you click on a particular bar, I can actually click on a single data element. I can pick on just the red guys, or just the green guys, or just the blue guys. And when I get to blue, I right click, I type format, and now I want to go in here and change the fill property. And what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to tell it no fill, okay? None whatsoever, which means essentially they're there, but you can't see them. Okay, so those data elements are actually there, but they're just now invisible. Okay, cool. So we kind of sort of have something that looks like a Gantt chart now. One of the things that's a little weird is these dates are now all scrambled together, and I can't read a dang thing. So remember we talked about one of the things you can format, you can put things on angles. Remember that? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to make these so that they come off at an angle so we can actually read what the heck they said, because I can't read what they say. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to do format. And then one of the things we have down here is text and alignment. And so one of the things you can do is put in a custom angle. Well, I'm going to put in 45 degrees. Okay, this is in degrees. And so hit the button. And doing. Now I can actually say that looks like a Gantt chart. Cool? Okay. So took a little bit to make a Gantt chart look like a Gantt chart. First is I created just a plain old stacked bar. And then I had to reverse the order of the elements on the y-axis to the match chronologically. Then I had to go in and make one of the elements actually disappear, the blue one, which was that start date. It's made the start date disappear. And then I still couldn't read the date, so I actually had to put the dates at an angle. And ta-da! Now we have something that actually looks like a Gantt chart. Cool? Actually, here's an interesting one. I still have this data element here for the legend. So you think maybe I can click on this and do format legend and actually go in here and tweak it just a little bit? That'd be kind of weird, wouldn't it? What you can do, and this is the strange part, is I can actually, once I've selected the legend, right, actually go in there and click on the actual legend item and hit delete. Okay, cool. Now it looks like a Gantt chart. Ta-da! Okay, we got a couple more charts to show. And this next one is called the scatter chart on page 210. So I have a survey here of something that I don't even know what it is. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to grab this, the age, apparently the age of the person and the temperature of, I don't know, temperature of something. I don't know what it is. Who cares? So I'm going to grab the age and temperature. And what we're trying to determine is there a correlation between the age and temperature? That's what I want to know. So I'm going to grab two of these, the two columns, and I want to insert, and I want to do a scatter chart. And so I hit this little button, and it gives me some choices, and whammo, I now get to see all my data. But to tell you the truth, it's all kind of squashed together. And so I'm going to change the y-axis. Instead of having this guy go from 0 to 90, which is perfectly okay, I'm going to have it stop so it only shows like from 60 to 90, okay, something like that. So it just makes, all it does is just stretch the guy out so you can see better. Now, admittedly, this is going to be one of the elements that you're going to need to concern yourself with when it comes to misleading charts, okay? Because most people kind of sort of assume that the y-axis starts at 0 and the x-axis starts at 0. So I'm going to click on the y-axis here. I'm going to go in here to format, and one of the things you can say in here is the minimum and number. So for example, I want to take the minimum and I'm going to change it to say 60. Whoa, not 60. Okay, so that's the minimum for that y-axis. So now it's stretched it out a little bit. Kind of cool. So now I can see a little bit of that. Now, back to philosophy. Why am I doing this? I'm trying to determine, is there a correlation between age and temperature? That's what I want to know. Is there an honest-to-God real? Is there something that shows as age increases, the temperature increases or decreases or something like that? And so that's basically what this shows. The problem is that you might be tempted, like if this was a financial kind of thing, you might want to do a prediction line, what's called a trend line that goes through here. Okay, a trend line is one of those things that draws a line based on the data, and you don't have to do any math to make it happen. That's the cool part. Okay, the technique for doing trend lines is radically different between the 2010 and the 2013 version. So to make a trend line show up, a statistically valid prediction of where these things should go. So I'm going to click on this guy, and I'm going to cheat and just go to this chart layout guy that automatically just puts a trend line in there for me. So this is the linear trend. So if you wanted to predict that age 75 is going to want a temperature of looks like 50. Okay, that's the idea, is that the scatter plot shows you the raw data, and this linear line. It doesn't always have to be linear. You could have a hockey stick kind of a plot, and you want to do an exponential kind of a guy rather than a linear kind of guy. But again, it's just kind of different. I should point out that when you're doing a scatter plot, it should be fairly obvious that you could only have two data series, one for the X and one for the Y. There'll never be a scatter plot with 3 data series or 4 or 1. It always 2 and only 2. Okay. One of the last charts we're going to learn is what's called an area chart. So an area chart is essentially the same thing as one of those stacked line charts, except it shows them all together. And let me just give you an example of what that looks like. So let's go back to product data. I'm just going to change this type. Whoops. Change the style chart. I'm going to go to area and click on the default here. And what it basically did is it stuck all the data on top of each other. Okay, so I can see lots of things. One of the things I can see is it looked like week 5 was a pretty good week and that week 3 was not a good week. That's one thing you can tell. And you can tell proportionally if things are going up or down or staying about the same. So this is sort of like a combination kind of a thing. Okay, this is probably a good place to stop for the 15-minute mark. We'll pick this thing up again in just a few.